This is a short intro video on sequences, which we'll be covering next. So first, I wanted to give you a definition of what a sequence is. So a sequence is an ordered list of numbers. So on the blog, I've given you a few problems to try, and each of the lists of numbers in the homework is a sequence. So any ordered list of numbers, some pattern. So that's a sequence. And then another definition that you'll need is for a term, and a term is each individual number in a sequence. So in the list of numbers, those numbers are called terms. When you're talking about the terms in a sequence, you could refer to the first term, the second term, and so on. And there's a notation that actually goes along with this, so that instead of writing out the first term, those words, you could actually use a shorthand notation. That notation is often referred to as sequence notation. So you can see here that I'm talking about the first term, and the notation for that would be either U1, or maybe you'll see A1, or you might even see T1, which I prefer because T is standing for term. So if I wanted to refer to the first term, I could write any of these different symbols, and it would be understood that I'm talking about the first term. So similarly, the second term would be U2 or A sub 2, and that means that N is 2. I could also write T sub 2 for that, and that stands for the second term. And the third term, and so on. So in the third term, the N value is 3, meaning it's the third term. So if I'm talking about the nth term, then that would be U sub n or A sub n. So n is n in that case. You're often asked to find the nth term, in which case you just write a formula, and I'll show you how to do that soon. But if you have a formula for A sub n in terms of n, you can find the value of any term of the sequence. So when you can find any term, it's called an explicit formula. On the next slide, I'm going to show an example of finding a few terms in a sequence given a formula. In this example, I'm giving you a formula for finding the nth term of something, but I'm asking you to find the first 4 terms. So this formula is general in that you can find any term, but if I want the first 4 terms, that means I want U1, the first term, in which case, if you remember from the previous slide, I'm telling you that n is 1, so that's what you would substitute into your formula. So it would be 2 times 1 squared plus 1, which would be 3. So the first term in the sequence is 3. I'm going to write those up here. So we have 3, and to get the second term, I'm looking for U sub 2, that stands for the second term, and so now my n value is 2, which means that I'm going to go replace n with 2 in my very same formula, and that's 4 times 2, which is 8, plus 1, which is 9. So the second term in this sequence is 9. To get the third term, now n is 3, and this again is my notation for third term. So now I need to do 2 times 3 squared, still plus 1, and that's 9 times 2, which is 18, and 1 is 19. And the fourth term would mean n is now 4, so I'm putting in 4 for n, and I get 16 times 2, which is 32, plus 1 is 33. And finally, I asked for the 16th term, just to show you you don't have to go in order, which would mean I'm supposed to put in 16 and square it and add 1. And 16 squared is 256, times 2 is 512, plus 1 is 513. So I forgot to add in my third term was 19, my fourth term was 33. I don't want to list 513 next because then it would show as the fifth term. So I could put ... and then 513, meaning that it comes later on in the sequence. So again, that's an example of using a formula for finding individual terms. Let's do one more example. In this example, I'm giving you a new formula, and I'm telling you that a sub n is equal to n minus 1 over n plus 1. So again, if I want the first term, then that would be this notation. A sub 1 is standing for first term, and since n is 1, I'm going to put that in everywhere I see out an n. So that gives me 0 over, doesn't really matter because 0 over anything is going to be 0. So my first term is 0. My second term I would get by putting in 2 for n. So now I have 2 minus 1 over 2 plus 1, which is 1/3. So my second term is 1/3. And I would like you to find the third term, the fourth term, and the 16th term as part of your homework. So you can finish that up in your notes and then do the finding the patterns that I asked for on the blog. Good luck. Email me if you have any questions.